Hi guys, it's Kelly Betz here to do an audio commentary track for 10 short songs about longing. This is just like a, video, just like a feature-length film audio commentary, except it's my little album, my mini album. So if you're following along at home, I'm starting the album. 1, 2, 3. I hit play. I hope you did too. This first song is Barrel of a Gun, which is a crowd favorite, my crowd pleaser for my rap set. So anybody that's listening to this is probably already familiar with the rap version of it. So you know that I cut some of the lyrics because they were a little too rap world, talking about selling drugs and this and that. And I always love these lyrics, and I think it's a good way to slow it down and share them properly. I originally did this in my punk band, Spoiled Rotten. We had a distorted acoustic guitar as the lead, and I actually played bass. And so for part of the show, we would switch over, and I would, surprise, do a country song with a harmonica solo at the end. I thought it was worthy of this album. Where the lyrics come from, well, the chorus at least, I was inspired by listening to No Can Do, and I sat down and I was drunk in the middle of the day, and I was like, I'm just going to write the most honest shit I can, just no holds barred, see what comes out, and this is what happened. The chorus comes from, I'd had those bars sitting around, and then I was getting ready for a show, pre-gaming with my brother, and he was like, hey, I found this drum loop, and he played this drum loop he had, and it sounded just like the drums that are in the Beastie Boys, Looking Down the Barrel of a Gun, from Paul's Boutique. And I start singing, looking down the barrel of a gun, son of a gun. And then that's all the lyrics I knew to the song. And so I just kept rapping. I've been listening to the Germs, the punk band, earlier. And so since it was referencing a gun, I filled it in with some of the lyrics from Forming, my favorite Germs song, which is Pull My Trigger, I'm Bigger Than, which is a song we'd covered with Task Force. So it's this kind of culmination, abomination of all these things that just meshed together. And it seemed to make sense, and it seemed to tie it up. So here's the folk version. I've kind of always secretly been a folk country artist. About once a year or so, I'll do a show at maybe the open mic that I used to run at the Blue Fugue, or just a certain artist would come into town and I'd end up opening for them. But I never really promoted it, never really put myself out there, never tried to get big shows. But who knows, maybe now I will. I already have another one of these lined up to record, so I'll get the next one out and we'll see where it takes me. But there's a bigger plan, a bigger vision to all of this that I'll share with you by the end. This is the theme song to a YouTube series called Tarantula by Carson Mel. It is fantastic. Go watch Tarantula. You'll laugh your ass off, especially if you're from Missouri, especially if you're from not a city in Missouri. It is like truck stop, backwoods, weird white trash, just embracing that culture and showing it in a way that doesn't look down on it too hard. I love it, and encapsulates a big part of what growing up for me was, and the people I found myself around, for better or worse. And it's beautiful. I love it. This is Brand New Dance, another rap song turned folk song by Das Racist. And along with just about everything that made it on this album, it's Das Racist is funny, yet it has heart. I think that there's an honesty to them, but then they're also just kind of spouting out whatever comes up to them and saying little funny references and little funny this and that's. Das Racist, excellent rap group, 3 Middle Eastern guys from New York that one of them doesn't do anything. He just is. And I think they're hilarious. Some of these lyrics just burn my heart when I hear them. Like, I've got a baby bird, I only feed it candy. What the hell? I don't know what that means, but it hurts when I hear it. It's beautiful. I'm entranced by their music, and so I went ahead and fledged this one out. The whole thing with me, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, having a folk album is that I totally don't. I played folk music. I played acoustic guitar way before I learned to rap. I was probably 12 when I got my first guitar. It was an old thing from the 70s, this beat-up guitar, and the strings were like that far away from the bridge, literally, and pushing it down hurt my hands, and it just carved into me, just like my fingertips turned gray. And then years later, when I finally played just a guitar, it always felt like I was cheating from then on. I was like, oh, it's that easy, I learned power chords at first, didn't play anything else until I moved out of my parents and finally had somebody that wasn't a punk around me playing music. I had a girlfriend say, "You're an idiot. This is what a chord is. This is a G," and immediately started fledging out funny versions of rap songs, just kind of to be something. I was never good at having a full song, like, let me play Stairway, or even like whatever, let me play a full song, like let me play this whatever indie song is, anything really from beginning to end. It was always for me a joke, a way to get laughs, kind of a piece to put me and get me an audience at a party. And so I'd play funny rap songs, like I always did, like the Papa Roach song in like a funny voice, and I do Slipknot songs with my friend, like I did the sweet acoustic version with Bud, who recorded this album. But as time passed and as I've gotten older, I've realized maybe there's something there, maybe there's something to it. So trying to fledge it out now and see what else I can get out of it. It's still silly. I still think that this is a joke album. All my favorite bands are joke bands. Like I said, Das Racist, NoFX, Beastie Boys. Ween is a huge influence of mine. All these people joke bands, but then that's not all there is to it. If you really listen, there's something to it. Even on the cover of the album, Mike has edited in a single teardrop if you look carefully. So I'm smiling while I'm crying. I think that sums it up perfectly. Coming up next year, we have a song called In Heaven, which is from the movie Eraserhead. And if you haven't seen Eraserhead, it's pretty wonderful. If you have an iron will and can make it through something pretty weird. So in the movie, the protagonist, Eraserhead, is having a hard time, and he stares into a radiator, and inside the radiator, he hallucinates a tiny girl in there with a white afro and sideburns to match, and she's kind of holding her hands like this, and she sings a sweet song that is this song, and then holds her hands open and stares at you until it becomes super uncomfortable. And then the Pixies went and did a cover of this, kind of a punk grunge version of this song, which I've adapted yet again. So this is kind of the Pixies version of the David Byrne song, and I like it. I like it a lot. The viola player had never played with a guitar player before. She'd never played something that wasn't in an orchestra, that wasn't notes in front of her. So that's, I see being a musician and being in an orchestra as two completely different things. I don't count it as the same at all. You can't jam. You can't just play along. You are like painting by numbers. It's cool. I respect it, but you are not a musician in the way that I define it. I probably just offended all those violin and piccolo players out there, but I don't give a fuck. And so here she was with me, bossing her around, telling her not only to play along with these whatever, chords I'm pounding out, these a 3-chord song. I'm also saying, now freak out. Now just get weird. And so this was totally out of her element for me. I'm really glad she played along. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun bossing her around. And this is a cool little song. Eerie and odd, just like I like it. I hope this album kind of leaves people on edge, and I hope it opens them up emotionally. I don't want it to just be songs, This next one, speaking of opening up emotionally, is about a guy I knew that I looked up to and showed me a lot of great music, that once I had stopped knowing him years later, killed himself, which was very recently actually. And I wrote the song just after I found out about it as a way of dealing with it. His name was Evan Exempt. He played music himself. His music is insanely honest and funny. All the things I love. He was one of the first guys, maybe the first guy that I knew in person, or at least in that first wave as a teenager coming to Columbia, where I knew him as a person but would listen to his music, was like a fan and a friend of his. And he showed me lots of great stuff, like would burn me mixes with like Kimya Dawson and, Rhyme Sayers rap on it, Aesop Rock, lots of good weird music. And he showed me a lot. And one sad tidbit of information is that while I was mixing and mastering with Tim, I asked him if he knew Evan, and he said, yeah, and we relayed about him, and then it became obvious to me that Tim didn't know that he had passed. And so in the middle of mixing this really down song, this really, sad song, I had to tell him that this guy we both knew, had died. He hadn't heard that yet. But that led to a really good conversation that I'm glad I had about death and being around people dying. And That's something that I've experienced a bunch in this last year that I wasn't used to. There's even a song on my Hail to the Computer Kid album called "A Lot of People Died This Year," because that's what's been going on. I hope that this song, it's very blunt. It's very like, we're bodies at the morgue. You're just a body. I hope that doesn't rub anybody the wrong way that knew Evan, better than I did, that was close to him. I don't mean it that way. I hope everybody understands just my way of dealing with it. That's just this thought I had that stuck out to me, and it's just me being honest with myself, and more about the value of my own life and being like, oh God, this is so temporary. I hope nobody sees it as anything that it isn't. So, NoFX. This is the first of 2 NoFX songs in a row, one of my favorite bands. The original idea of me doing an acoustic album was that I was going to do a whole folk version of Punk and Drublic. So the whole NoFX album was going to be Kelly does NoFX. What a terrible idea. I'm so happy I didn't do that. At the time I thought, I'll expose the world to this funny, what a gimmick, what a quirk. This guy does folk NoFX. Well, if you type in NoFX covers, there's like a million out there. There's even like choirs and orchestras doing NoFX songs. So I really underestimated how widespread the music was. Duh. But I ended up doing Fleas and Linoleum on the album because I think I bring something to the songs that other people haven't. I think that I make them mine. Linoleum sounds completely different than the original. It's like a third of the speed. I'm trying to bring emphasis to the lyrics of both of those because Mike is just kind of grunts it out, and he does a great job of grunting, but that's what he's doing. And I think that their lyrics are very poetic. So here's me kind of doing more of a dramatic reading of the poetic elements of NoFX, which is weird for a punk band, but that's what it is. So the whole thing with me doing a folk album is really aiming towards a bigger goal of just trying to show a more honest side of my personality. And I really did grow up around a ton of folk music. If you don't know, I grew up on a farm with horses and sheep and chickens my whole life. My first jobs were shoveling horse shit, tossing hay, and collecting walnuts, filling the bed of a truck with walnuts for like whatever, a cent a piece. So the farm life it was the only life I knew for 18 years, and hating it and loving it, and just being out in the middle of nowhere, being in the sticks and the woods in the Ozarks, and then also my parents are very into culture, and almost all of their friends are artists of some sort. A lot of painters and a lot of musicians, and so they would have these parties, and some of them are legendary, and this big. A giant yard filled up with these people jamming and little bands. There's this band Augusta Bottoms Consort that I grew up around that found some popularity, and just lots of great people playing acoustic instruments, playing folk music, and some like roots traditional country and bluegrass. Grew up around a lot of bluegrass. Just hearing that as a kid, that was just, I was crawling around that, and then being dragged to bars and some venues, as a kid. And just always been around that kind of music way before I heard punk and before I heard rap. So I think it comes pretty naturally to me, even though I do come at music from a very punk rock standpoint, which is to say I don't have much technical skill. I just fake it and fake it and fake it. I'm good with music. I'm not good with the making of it. I can just get it done, if that makes any sense. So this whole album is just me faking it out until something comes of it. So this last official song on the album, One for the Road, is, like I say in the intro, I definitely was hungover as shit. I was living at this punk house, which is now legendary, called South Ann Street House. And, I just had all these roommates, these traveling, hitchhiking kids, and just, bummy, stinky kids that would stay and squat. And so I was, like, working to pay rent. Well, what was happening, my parents paid my rent, but then I worked to pay other kids' rents that were staying there, and still somehow I wound up without a bedroom, and I was sleeping on the couch, and I woke up at 11 or noon one morning, and I was just still drunk, and I'd been listening to way too much Bob Dylan, and I just have this I kind of woke up in a dream state with this song in my head, almost kind of fully fledged out. It also follows a formula, so it wasn't very hard to write. And it's the same as Country Joe and the Fish. 1, 2, 3, what are we fighting for? Don't ask me, I don't give a damn. Next stop is Vietnam, from Woodstock. And so, yeah, G, C, D, G. And then also the White Stripes. 1, 2, 3, 4, take the elevator at the hotel you have. I'll be glad to see you later. Also G, C, D, G. And they're countdowns. They're counting. And so mine as well, counting through it, playing those same 3 chords in that order. So it kind of follows this folk tradition, to a T. And I've gotten ahead of myself, and I'm talking about the next one, but this song that's playing right now is actually Cold Hard Times by Lee Hazelwood. And if you don't know Lee Hazelwood, definitely look into him. He also has this darkness to him and this ominence he's bluntly honest to a point where you kind of have to laugh at him. You kind of have to laugh with him. He's a jokester. He wrote These Boots Are Made for Walking. And so weird kind of psychedelic cowboy music. And he was very goofy. First of all, These Boots Are Made for Walking from a man's standpoint is a fucked up song. These boots are made for walking. One of these days they're going to walk all over you. In his version of it, recording it, he even at the end of the song is joking that he's not, he kind of doesn't do the last verse, and he says, I'm going to get out of here before they throw me out. Like he knows how, he knows what kind of joke he's telling. Also, he has a cover of one of his albums where he's completely buck naked with just the pistol holsters on, covering up his dong, and that's all he's got. So good sense of humor, a lot of great songs, and he also shares the same strong song structure that I like, which is verse, chorus, done. Just barely, maybe it takes 5 seconds literally for the intro, 5 seconds literally for the bridge, and just get out of there. Just get it done, get out of the way. Just here it is. Deal with it. I like that a lot. I like that a whole lot. So he's a great guy. Good inspiration in him. Lee Hazelwood. Yeah, so I think my master plan for having a folk album is that what you're going to hear on my next rap album is me playing instruments and rapping over them. So this is all kind of building steps, and I'm going to be singing and rapping. And then the end goal is to have me with beats that I've made that are also kind of punk songs. So it's me rapping and singing over an instrumental work that I've built myself. And really, I hope to finally, within the next year or two, have a project that's me doing all of my elements. But I think before I'm able to do that, I need to fledge out what those elements are. So I'm really just trying to be well-rounded and having I just did my weird rap album with Hail to the Computer Kid. Zony psychedelic raps. And then now I'm trying to do my full-blown, down-to-earth, here's how I grew up. Here's me being silly and dark and just me and you and a guitar. And then now I hope to kind of bring that together and then maybe bring the punk element into it as well and have kind of one big stew that is the real Kelly, some honest to goodness Kelly, concoction for you. This song that's playing right now, the hidden track, Shimmy Shimmy Ya by Old Dirty Bastard of the Wu-Tang Clan, is one of the earliest songs that I learned to rap folk version of. And yeah, again, just getting a laugh at a party. And I fuck up the lyrics a few times. This take wasn't meant to be on the album, but I just decided I'm done recording. It's just time to put it out. And it's silly. I just want to end it after all these, 2 songs about suicide and just some fucked up shit. Just reward you by just having a little joke at the end. So there it is, guys. We've listened to the album together. You've tuned in. You like me enough to tune into this. And so I really, truly appreciate you listening in and hearing about my story. And I have a lot more to come. I honestly have a whole new rap album already recorded, and it's actually already loaded online. You just haven't heard it yet. So lots more to come. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of this, our time together here. And I'll catch you next time.